1, 2, 3.
We are live.
We are live.
We're here again.
Yes. Well, what's up, everybody who's out there in internet land?
Yeah.
Mark and Will. We are live here from Sacramento. And you know what? This is a bad idea, so I'm going to do it. We're here live with all of our friends here. Everybody say hi. There's everybody here in Sacramento. And since we like to always start talking about weather, what in the world is the weather going on here right now? All you guys who are from California, what is up with your weather? You know, I come from Oklahoma. I come to California. What do I expect? I expect warm weather, and you guys give me this. So I don't appreciate that. What is the weather here right now? What's the temperature when you guys got here?
This is mild.
It's mild? That's fantastic. What is it right now? About, I'm going to guess, high 40s, low 50s. Is that about right? 48. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. But, you know, I left Oklahoma, and my wife told me it was like 28 this morning. So this is warmer, I guess. But we are excited, and we are here with all of our close friends here at our Next Level workshop here in Sacramento. And this morning, we're going to be taking a bunch of questions. Just ask us anything. We're a little bit nervous because we're not sure what y'all are going to ask, but we will fake the answers if we have to. And we also would love to take questions from people who are online there as well. I see Crystal's online. Timothy, good to see you guys. Why don't you just talk for just a second with everybody, and I'm going to see if I can get some tech working.
Yeah. We'll let Mark handle the tech. So welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming out to Sacramento and our little warehouse. Got the new lights installed, which was great, so we can actually see you. It used to be really dark, and they flicker in the middle of the night. So
not creepy at all.
Not creepy at all when you're here by yourself. So, you know, we're here to just take your questions. What are some of the things that you have questions about or you want to learn about today? Yes.
I'm wondering if it's worth it to try and do free shipping, like to put the shipping cost in with the product, or if that's going to deter people because it's a higher product price.
Okay, so the question was, I'm going to repeat it because they can. Yeah, is it worth doing free shipping? Because you'll see people who post free shipping, and it might be enticing to them. For me, if you have to factor that price into. It's going somewhere, right? We all know, we see the free shipping. It's not really free. It's going somewhere, right? It's in the price of the product. I mean, honestly, for me, when I see something that says free shipping, I am more likely to click on that, right? The price might be higher, but something about seeing the word free to me, and I think a lot of consumers, is enticing to people who want to buy. Also, if you can do something where it's free shipping at a certain level, so you know that they're buying a certain amount of product, where you can spread that cost out over multiple items versus one item, that will be less of a sticker shock to people as well. For my website, it's $150 and you get free shipping. But most know that that's going somewhere. It's not just me eating shipping costs all the time, and because your price would have to be ridiculously not profitable if you priced it normally as if you were selling to someone locally and then you offered it to someone else free shipping. Unless you had those super high margins that you could, but it'd be very hard to. So we'll talk about the pricing as well later on how you determine what your costs are and making sure we're aware of what our costs are for each item so that we know the price accordingly and where we have some flexibility with items and where other items we don't. What do you think about? Well, you don't ship really, so.
No, yeah, mine's pretty easy.
Yeah.
My shipping's always free. You don't have to charge. I don't charge you anything for the files you buy from me. Doreen says we're going live as she's opening a package from Will. So thank you for that. That's awesome.
Your hands are cold on my package. Oh,
wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
So horrible. If you guys don't know me, this is this is my lane.
Yeah, right. My pastor's wife used to actually have a flag that she would throw on the stage every time he would say something out of bounds. So they call it a Renee flag. Her name was Renee. So he'd be preaching and say something ever so slightly off color, and all of a sudden this flag would just come flying in. So then some of us, when she wasn't there, like because we had so many services a week, she wasn't there all the time, and so someone would just take over the Renee flag on her behalf. Just be throwing flags, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. So we're gonna have a Will flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
right.
Disqualification.
So did that help you with your question?
Yes.
Okay, great. What other questions do you guys have? Any topic we can help with? And yes, Catherine.
Okay, so what I need to understand is if
I create, Will, you taught us how, I've seen it on Facebook where you make a jig out of cardboard. And so here's the question I have. Let's say I make a jig out of cardboard for the patches, but the cardboard, and I have a Glowforge. So I put it in and I cut out the circles and I do my set focus on the cardboard so that I know the cut. Then I put my patches in. Do I set focus again?
Yes, if it's a different thickness of material.
So then you do set focus again, and even though
Don't look at the screen.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the key to the jig.
Repeat that first, and then we'll talk.
Asking about jigs, the question was, when you make a jig, do you reset your focus to adjust for the material height for the new material? And
don't look at the screen because everything shifts.
Right.
And I get freaked out.
Right. So let's just walk through it again. So you put the cardboard in there.
Yep. Put cardboard in. You have your design ready to go. You cut out the shape that you need, right? You remove those cutouts without moving the jig. So I pin it down or tape it down.
Right.
You put your material in. You set your focus, and you ignore everything else on the screen, and you just hit print.
Okay.
Right. So if you're putting this item in there and it's a lot higher than the cardboard
that's
is.
where I was struggling.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to ignore the cardboard at that point and act like this is the surface, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went through 5
And it will look very wrong.
It will look very off.
Yeah, it did, and I just freaked out. And
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And what I've said in the group before is at the end of my jig videos or any of the tutorials I posted is just trust a jig.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trust a jig. Don't worry about the camera.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Follow-up question. What happens if I remove the jig and I want to use it later?
Hmm.
How do I get it right?
You go.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So
You
I
got that. I
have two
know.
things. If it's cardboard, I just make another one.
Yeah.
Because it's cheap. Yeah. Now, if it's like I also made some from MDF, for example. I'm sorry, I need to repeat the question. You asked if you want to make it later, you take it out. The people online are always reminding me they can't hear you. So if you take the jig out and you want to use it later, there are 2 ways to do it. I have several that I've made out of wood, like out of cheap MDF. And what I do is I always take it for either my mirror or my Glowforge. It doesn't matter. I bring it down to a place in the bed where I can always find that again. For the Glowforge, what do you have? Okay, for the Glowforge, I bring it down to the bottom left, all the way against the shoulder of the crumb tray. And I hit the shoulder on the crumb tray, and then I hit the front door all the way down. So that way it's always in the same place. So then when I cut it, I just go boop, go back down again. The mirror is a very similar thing. You just find something that's static that's always going to stay there. You could use honeycomb pins if you want, but you gotta get them in the same place. That's up to you. I've all taped it down, but honestly, I got to tape it in the same place again. So I just use the frame of the machine.
Yeah, that works well. Then if you reopen that same file and you haven't moved anything, it will be in the right spot.
Yeah.
But say you did, what I do is once I have my jig or my material placed and I cut my jig, I'm writing down the parameters on the X and the Y of where that design was. So when I reload it, if I accidentally move it, I can just automatically move my design back to those coordinates and it will line up perfectly. I do a few. I've done a few. I have a few wooden jigs because people wanted to see how to do a repeatable one. For me, I get so many boxes or Amazon boxes from my wife.
Yeah.
I cut a jig. It's just faster for me to just cut a new jig each time. And I don't have to store it. Then I have to worry about the smell because it just sits out cut.
And typical jigs are usually fast to cut for the most part. They don't take a long time, especially with cardboard. It's going to go really quick.
Yeah, I think when I cut the patches for you guys to do your hats today, to cut the jig of 12, it took 45 seconds.
So it's not a big deal. So now for me, a lot of times I'll take a Sharpie and I'll write on the jig to know what it was and since I have I have 3 Glowforges and a mirror. So I got to make sure I know what I did it on. Because if I grab the Glowforge one and stick it in the mirror, it doesn't work. But honestly, sometimes I'll just grab another piece and cut it again. Great question. What else? What other kinds of questions? Y'all can't go darkness this early.
Well,
Tim.
Back off yours. Every time you run a job on the Glowforge, it is going to set focus unless you turn off set focus and go to manual focus. So it's always going to set focus. That's what takes it. It comes up and down. That's setting focus, then going back up. So.
Okay. That's great.
Okay, this is on the pricing structure.
Go for it.
We come from a retail environment. And I know there's certain, what we used to charge, okay, I've got X amount of time invested in this versus, and we know this, our
Yeah.
time is worth X.
X, right.
So is that kind of the same thing here? I mean, when you guys structure this, yeah, of course you have to look at how much does our product cost?
Yeah.
How much, you know?
Yep.
But then there's your time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let me repeat that to you. And I'm going to say this for the live folks. We're going to answer that now, but we're going to go much deeper here after this live. We'll go into that exact thing. So the question he's asking is, how do we figure in and out the value of our time, right? And of course, materials too. But basically, you're talking about how do you figure out your end price? Is that right? Yeah. So I'll let you go first, but then I'll pick there afterwards.
Yeah, so I all of that comes into you base all of that, right? You base your materials, your time, your profit margin, what the market will bear. I think all of those are very important parts in when you're looking at how you're going to price your projects. Like Mark said, we will touch that. We go through each of the steps of that on how we do our. He sells more of the physical product that's created versus a blank, but all of that is factored in, right? For like a retail where you're also looking at your overhead, you're looking at your rent, you know, your lease, all that, your employees. So all of those come into play when you're looking at your pricing. It's a little different for a lot of us who work out of home. A lot of people do forget to factor their time. They look at, well, I get my material and okay, I just multiply it by 4, or they'll use like the
Pricing
pricing calculator, capital calculator. And there is a purpose for those. They can be used in some circumstances. I think there's more involved than just plugging in a few numbers. And then we will definitely go into that.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time planning on that one, so we're excited about talking about that one. I'll say this one now. We'll touch it later, but I want to say it for people online too. Is for me, everybody has a little bit of different way how they get to their pricing. Maybe because you've had a lot of experience in retail, you might be wired the same way I am. Sometimes I can. Let me start over. What I will do is, let's say I'm going to sell. Yeah, I'm not going to sell this, but just for example, and the first thing I ask myself is, what is the highest price I think I can get for this? I go straight to the retail before I worry about my price before I worry about the breakdown. And I say, oh, I'm able to sell this for $60 maybe. Then I go, okay, my brain already says there might be margin in there for me at $60. Let's start doing the math. But if I go, I don't think I can get more than 15, I probably won't even sell it, because I go, okay, I can already tell you, I do all the math, there's going to be $3 for me or something like that. So sometimes I'll just throw something out after about 15 seconds of thinking. I go, yep, I can't do it. The other thing that we talk about a lot is that, and we're going to talk a lot more about this here after the live, is that there are times when we get fixated on the current market that we're currently serving without realizing maybe we need to change markets. It's sobering, because a lot of times we'll think, oh, nobody in my town will pay X for that. And you don't realize there's somebody in your town that's paying 3X for that. You just haven't found them yet. So sometimes it takes a little bit of courage, but sometimes you got to lose this customer to gain this one. And when you start doing the math on your materials and your time, you might have to say, I've got to charge $75 for this, and nobody's going to pay it. So you either got to find the nobodies that you don't realize are there, or you got to say, this isn't my product. That's not a direct answer to your question about the time and materials. We'll talk about that in a little bit for sure. I'll give you a great example. Some of you guys are aware of this, but one of the products that I sell, or the files that I sell that's most popular for me, is my letter banks. These are just letters that we make for kids banks. And we've sold a lot of those. People sell a ton of them. But in my group, every couple of weeks, there'll be somebody who'll come in and say, what do you sell the letter banks for? And we'll get a flood of answers. And the average is about $30 to $35 is what people sell them for. But we have several people who are selling them for $75 to $80 a piece. And I had somebody yesterday or a couple of days ago say, they are raising their price to 60 or 65 to slow down demand so they can keep up. Well, I want that problem, right? I mean, if I'm going to have problems, that's it, right? But the point that she was trying to make is there are people that will pay X, Y, 2X or 3X that you think, and you just need to have the courage to take that leap and change that price. And the thing I always say is, you're going to lose a customer to gain a customer. the one that will pay 30 is going to go away, but the one that'll pay 60 is coming in. And that's a little bit of a scary window between the 30 leaving and the 60 coming in, but you got to have the courage to do that. We'll talk about that some more. What other kinds of, I saw, yes, sir. Follow.
Tag onto that.
Yeah.
Our retail stores were in Walnut Creek and Danville.
Okay.
Pricey areas.
Okay.
So, I mean, now we live up here in the mountains. Small community. You know, now you start going, okay.
Do I sell?
I'm gonna lose one to gain one, but I can't charge my
Right.
San Andreas,
And that's real. Yeah.
Danville.
So you're asking, what do you do? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I can give you a single answer because it could vary from person to person. I do know some people that sell things for different prices in different places, and that's not illegitimate at all. Are you nodding? You know, does that happen to you too? So that is something that can happen from time to time. I'll give you an example of a little bit different industry. I was a web designer for a lot of years, and I had to learn that the exact same website in Oklahoma, the same one, sells for 3 times the price in Boston. The exact same website. In fact, I had clients, I'll just tell the story now because I'll tell it again later. But I had a company who came to me and was asking for bids for a website. And I was kind of excited because it was a big company. And they said, hey, Mark, we've seen your work. We like you. We want to work with you. Can you put a bid? And I said, sure. So I spent several hours making up a proposal. And the most I had ever charged for a website at that point ever was like $3,500. This is the most I ever charged. And my bid was $9,000. And I actually did the math and it was only like 7,000, but I took a deep breath and I added 2 on because I thought I might be able to do that. So I bid $9,000. And then I didn't hear anything for about a week. And then the guy messaged me back and he said, hey, we just want to let you know, we absolutely love you. I just want to check, is that your price? And I said, yeah. He goes, because you are way lower than everybody else. And the buyer, somebody else in the company, they are a little bit, they're not sure that you understand the job. And he goes, would you like to revise your bid? You realize what he's doing? He's saying, would you like more money? And I was like, I'm thinking, I raised it by $2,000 for no reason at all. Like, I thought there's no way. And everybody else is bidding $12,000 to $15,000 for the job, the exact same job. And I was younger then. And I just said, no, I think I'm good. And they passed because they said, we're just not sure you can do the job because you're charging too little. I know that's, I know. Because so that, I'm sorry, that's not a direct answer, but just the fact that there are different people that are willing to pay different things. And so for a while, I ended up charging different money for people in Oklahoma than Florida and New York and, whatever.
Just like we talked
California.
about California.
Yeah.
Just
Those
like
are
we talked
$20,000 California
when we
people.
talked about doing a CD cover, right? A CD cover for a local band is the same CD cover you would make for Bruno Mars, but you're not charging them the same. It's the same amount of work. It's the same, it's your same skill. So you can charge different prices in different markets, but you might also have to say, maybe the prices I was charging there made sense for the product that I'm selling. That doesn't make sense for where I am now for the price that this market can bear. I just can no longer sell that product. And I need to find something that works within that market to give me the returns that I need to make it profitable.
Yeah.
Or ship everything, right? We can reach everybody everywhere in the country. We're not limited to our neighborhood now.
But that's tough when
It is.
when you put your price
Oh, it is.
online. You're now advertising everybody.
Right.
This is my price.
Because that was my challenge is on my website. If I'm saying I'll build a website for Oklahoma for $4,000 or California for 12, that doesn't fly. Right. So of course, this is not a great answer for you, but I'm just giving you what happened for me it was always a call for estimate not because I just wanted to shoot everybody a different price, but because I wanted to know the circumstances. I wanted to know because also if I'm making a website for a stay-at-home mom that makes amazing cookies versus Walmart, they're not paying the same because of course it plays a different role for those two companies. Walmart, we're talking about millions and hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. And the mom is working her butt off. Hers is important too, but they're not the same. But technically it can be the same work. So for you, if you're going to sell online, you're going to have to either have the same price. If it's a product like a product that you're selling, you're right. You can't charge two different prices depending on where someone lives.
No, I like that call, Vanessa.
Yeah, that a lot of times makes sense, and then you can at least have a conversation that makes sense for the customer. But I want to highlight your question. Your question's a very good question that is a legitimate struggle for everybody, and I don't know that there's just a rubber stamp answer for them.
Yeah, there's so many factors into that. So
Yeah, I was going to say, since I've been traveling a lot lately, I'm paying a lot more for the exact same sandwich in the airport.
yeah,
The exact same sandwich, the same one. Actually, maybe not even the same one because it's not as good, but the same brand, in the airport and the same brand outside the airport, and everybody knows it. It's not like it's a secret. I'm not saying that I got warm fuzzies about it either, but it is a thing. So there's that.
yep.
I saw a
question
couple.
in the-
Yeah,
There's one in the very back, right? I think you had your hand up, sir.
Well, I was going to comment on the
please.
$3 versus $60.
Yeah,
You commented, right? It comes down to volume
yeah,
at some point, where the $3 might become a viable price if you're selling in quantity,
sure.
right? Versus selling one at a time, where say I need to have a higher price because my margin is a lot lower.
Right. I'm going to repeat it just for everybody else. So you're just saying, depending on volume, a different price might make sense, $3, $60, anything like that. So your price could change based on volume. Yeah, that's great. And we're going to talk about that some more too. So I'd like you to circle back to that when we get into pricing to talk about that a little more. I think that really is valuable as well. Did you have a question? Yeah.
When you guys are talking about pricing, are you guys going to go over wholesale pricing and how to figure that out?
We can, absolutely. Yeah. Kind of one of the things that we have lots of things written down that we don't know if they're all going to resonate with everybody in the room. So we're just going to kind of go, okay, no bite. Okay, great. So we'll hang out on the ones where there's bites, and then we'll just cast again on another one because we have no idea who's in the room at the time. So yeah, if you'd like to talk about wholesale, for sure, remind us, and we'll talk about that for sure too. What else? Anybody else? Yeah.
This is not pricing at all. I'm just getting started, so I have a few products, but I'd like to, in the next year, after the holidays, sell SVGs.
Yeah.
I use Illustrator, so how do I make it so that if it's like a personalized ornament or something with a kid's name, that somebody who buys it can
Yep.
change the name?
So let me repeat it, and I'll answer that because that's my wheelhouse right there. So she's asking, she'd like to start selling files, SVG files, and the question is, when you sell a file that's personalizable, I feel like there was just one too many syllables in there. A file that people personalize. How do you sell the file to someone so that they can easily do that when they need to? I can answer that one because I deal with that every single day. There is going to be a level where the buyer needs to know how to do that on their own. So there's a couple caveats. So what you're going to need to do is, let's say it's, let's make up anything, a monogram that has a family name in the middle. Okay, for example. So let's say it's a top half and the bottom half that connect with the name in the middle. That's very common. The short version is all you can give them is these two, and then you can tell them what font you used when you made it,
Okay.
but you can't ultimately give them anything editable in terms of the text. Right, you can't, because you can't legally distribute fonts necessarily, and even if you did, they have to go download it unless they have it. So what I do now is that I'll say I used this font. Here's a link to where you can get it, but you can use any font you want. There's no rule to which font you want to use. And then I'll do a short video where I say, here's how to do it in Illustrator.
Oh, the video's a good idea.
Yeah, and it's not hard to do, and I can help you. I'd love to help you with that. And you can either refer them to my video or you can use your own. Either one is appropriate for you. Let me rephrase this. If you're selling a finished product, of course, you don't need that. But if you're selling right. So I would do a video. That a couple things that does that helps your buyer, and that helps them get to know you as a helper. They know you as, hey, Mark's going to help me with that if I have trouble. Now, here's some of the real world challenge. Real world. You use Illustrator. You guys know where I'm going with this, right? I'm sure.
Not everyone.
You use Illustrator, but they use Silhouette. Totally legit. So either you say, sorry, I can't help you, or you go buy Silhouette and learn it yourself. This is my world. This is my world. Because I bought almost all of them. I have Corel, I have Illustrator, Inkscape, Silhouette, Affinity Designer. I'm not good at all of them. In fact, I'm terrible at most of them because I use Illustrator every day. But what I do is I just suck it up and I go open Inkscape and I teach myself, and then I go teach them. Well, sometimes it's not as fast as I wish it was or they wish it was, but that's the real world of file selling is you try to take care of them. Here's the other thing that since nobody's watching online, just kidding, nobody's there but us. The challenge for being a file seller specifically is that there are some expectations on you that are actually not legitimate, but you almost can't say it. So I'm not saying it right now. Technically, if I
Video over.
Yeah, and we're not live. Technically, I'm selling a file. If you buy the file from me and you receive the file, the transaction is over. Now, if you guys know me, what I'm getting ready to say doesn't fit Mark's personality. Okay, so just let me fix all this because I love to teach. If I can teach every day, all day, and make a living for my family, I will teach all day because that's the biggest joy that I get, even more than designing. But it's not my job to teach you how to use your software. Now, unless I set myself up as that's different. If I set myself up as a teacher and you're paying me to teach, that is my job. But it's not my job to learn all of the programs out there and then teach you how to use it. Not as a file seller, but I do it because one, I love it. And I also love to see you succeed. But you have to know that when you start selling files, that is part of the conversation that you have to decide, am I going to learn how to use all programs that I don't normally use? And what kind of resources I'm going to provide for the people who need it.
I don't mind learning to use them at all. It's the cost of them is the
I know.
right?
It is.
I'm cringing thinking of telling my husband, yeah, we bought the forge and I got all this wood and all this paint, and now we're going to buy 6 design programs.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to repeat it for everybody.
Sweetheart, but
Yeah. So she's saying that she's dreading having to tell her husband that she's going to have to buy 6 design programs that she doesn't even use. So the reality is that is part of the journey. That is part of trying to figure out how you're going to serve your customers as best you can. And I think here's real talk. I think that you start with Illustrator. And you just say, this is what I made it in. This is how I can help you. And then you add on things as you feel fits for you and as it works in your economy. And at some point you can't do them all because like there's several I can name out there that are all legit, but I can't do them all. Like there's one that people use in vinyl world called Surecuts a lot, which I always laugh just a little bit because it throws me back to the 80s rep. But I can't use all of them. So at some point you're going to have to tell somebody, here's Illustrator. I hope that helps because you can't meet them all. It's just not real.
Do you think you can cheat and look it up? Like I have LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
Do you think I could look it up on LinkedIn Learning and go, here's what they said?
So do you think you could look it up on LinkedIn Learning? Sure. A lot of times I'll send somebody, like there's a guy on YouTube named Nick. He has Logos by Nick is his thing. Does everybody know him? He does Inkscape and he is a great teacher. And honestly, I don't know that I could teach any better than Nick. I'll try, but he's really good. And he's got a big playlist of Inkscape stuff. So a lot of times I'll just send somebody to YouTube and say, Nick's got it right here. And then that usually takes care of them. I think the big thing is just helping them find the resources they need. If it's not my video, that's okay, as long as they get what they need.
Yeah, it's just directing them to the right resource. And I think when you say in any business, if it's selling SVGs, if it's selling blanks, it's ultimately comes down to what are you going to give added value to your customer, right? Because there's a lot of people who sell files.
Right.
And there's the ones who do really well. And if you see the trend of the ones who are doing really well are the ones who help, who are willing to, they're not necessarily there teaching everybody, right? They're accessible. They're able to give resources. Just like when I sell blanks, there's a lot of people who sell the same things that I sell, but it's being accessible to your customers. So it depends a lot on how big you want to be, right? Because anyone can just put an SVG on Etsy and say, here, buy it. Don't respond to messages or like, hey, I sold it. I did my part. You do your part, learn. But that's not a sustainable business, right? And you're not going to grow with that. So if we want to set ourselves apart, if you have to pay for 6, you have to pay for 6, right? It's part of doing business. If the goal is to make money, you have to sometimes spend money You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in your education to be able to pass that on to others. If you want to be seen as a great file seller, you have to be someone who's going to give the resources to be a great file seller. So that's how I kind of look at it. I mean, I add extra things to the things that I sell, free jigs. I'm on my phone answering
Stickers.
questions 14 hours a day. It's just part of what it takes. I try to do everything same day, next day. It's just, you know, it's hard. It's a lot of work. But if I want to set myself apart and scale my business amongst the sea of competitors, that's what I have to do.
Yeah. And we're going to touch on that during, it's funny, we're going to talk about pricing and marketing as two separate things, but boy, they really overlap. So we're going to overlap a lot during that. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about later in marketing is figuring out your brand's voice, your tone, the way that you present yourself. And for me, and you guys can take whatever works for you in this, is for me, part of my brand's voice or my style is a teaching style. That's just me. And I've decided to lean heavy into that because it fits my personality. And so it works well for me. And my encouragement to you would be to find what works for you well, and lean into that.
I just real fast, just talking about this on SPGs. I went and bought an ornament, and it's 5 layers. And so I was trying to figure out what all the different layers were on it, and they put a little video on, and she actually put it together.
Yeah.
They were funny.
Yep.
So that was getting extra value to the customer. So doing those videos, that's
Yeah.
amazing because that's really helpful. I went back and watched it a couple times, and I went, okay, it's gonna be. And she had 2 different versions, so she put both of them together.
Yeah.
It was super really fast, but it was.
I love it.
It was great.
So I'm going to repeat it just so everybody can hear you. So you said that you bought an ornament and they had a video where the person just assembled the ornaments. There were several layers and it was super helpful. I try to do that with all mine too. And in fact, I don't mind saying this because we talked about it. Regardless of what you sell, physical items, digital items, it doesn't matter. You want to try to add as much value as is reasonable for you to do, right? Because you want to take care of your customer and so you want to add value. So for you guys, again, you might provide photos for them to be able to sell the item, or you might provide ideas on how this item could be used, right? You're just trying to add, because you could just say, here, $20, thanks. But you could do more than that. So I'd love to talk about that later today, is what kind of value can you start adding to your customer to separate you from everybody else and to get them to want to come back and say things like that. Oh my gosh, I bought this thing and it was so easy. Like, let's make up something else. Let's say it's a round that hangs on a door or wall. And maybe there are different options on how to hang it. And you can say, I love this jute that I bought from Michael's. Here's the link to it. I love this ribbon. I love this whatever. And you might sell it with the jute on it, but you might also say, if you like ribbon, here's where I bought it. And all of a sudden people say, I didn't have to go chasing that. Here's the links. And they say, wow, and what did that really cost you, honestly? Just a couple minutes. I mean, and honestly, you may have already bought it anyway, so you already know where it is. So that's just that added value, right?
Because you're going to talk about that ornament. You've probably bought other files that was complicated, that didn't have the right instructions, or things were just a mess. And you're probably never going back to buy from that file seller again. But that experience you had with just simple video, you're like, I want to buy from people I trust who are going to help me, and I'll do that. So I saw a question right back there.
So going back to the jigs, and this may be an obvious question here. So do you find it helpful because you mentioned writing down the coordinates on the jig.
Yeah.
So do you find it helpful to write down not only the coordinates, but maybe the settings for the laser and other information on the jig? So maybe you have the same jig with different configurations.
Yes.
And you simply pull the jig out. Do you find that to be helpful?
Yeah, the question was, do you find it helpful to write other information on the jigs, like settings and things of that sort? I think you can never have too much information on there. If something that's going to help you remember or make things faster for yourself, depending on your laser, there's like in the Glowforge, for example, you can save settings on there and you can label them to what exactly it was. And I have like hundreds of them saved. But yeah, I mean, any extra information that will help you speed up your production and make things easier for you, you should write down.
And let me add to that, because I don't know your circumstance. I know for me, when I started, I was just me. And now I've got 2 people working in my office that are helping me. And so I don't know who's going to grab that jig. And so for me, it's even better to write all the stuff on there. Or let's flip it around. They made the jig, I didn't. And so the boss walks in and screws it up because he doesn't know what he's doing because he didn't make the jig. So either of those can help. And then the third part is sometimes my brain's not the same place as it was yesterday. And that's real. You know, I've put a jig in upside down so it doesn't line up the same because I didn't write anything on it. So I didn't realize which side was what. I've put it in this way. So I now do arrows, you know, because I don't know where my brain's going to be or if my brain's going to even arrive that day, much less where it's at. So, I mean, it's true. I've screwed up things that I didn't have two of because I put the jig in upside down or in the wrong machine. So I just think it's wise. You can't hurt yourself by putting more information. So I think that's a great thing. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, and this may or may not come about the way I'm meaning it to.
Sure.
With enough time in your business, you're going to find out that you have to learn who your customer is.
You really do. Yeah.
Because everybody that throws money at you or waves money in their hand is not your customer.
Yes. That's tough. It's a tough to learn, right?
I mean, I owned, well, for many years, we owned an Alaskan fishing lodge.
Okay.
One of Gates's buddies came to us. We were up in Washington State. Stands up and literally cuts through everybody that's there. Says, "I want a 5-star resort. I want to drink all your liquor. Money's not enough." I thought of a moment, went through my Rolodex. That shows how long that's been. So
I understand what you're saying.
I pulled out a card. I said, go down 3 aisles, down about another 6 and turn left. There's a place right there, second booth. It's perfect for you. He walks off and he's looking at this and looking back at me and looking at this, looking back at me, and he walks away. Well, the editor for Fish Alaska magazine was there.
Wow.
He says, "Don, you heard what he said, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, but did you hear what he said?"
Right.
It wasn't the words.
It was yeah.
With that attitude, no matter what we take him out fishing, I want to kill him, he'd want to kill me, and he'd tell everybody in his circle.
Yeah.
How poorly I did.
His money is too expensive.
Yeah. So you just have to, I mean, and that's something, just take time.
You're right. And let me kind of say it in a different way. Maybe you can learn it from somebody else, but sometimes you got to learn it on your own. I mean, sometimes you can learn it. I mean, how many mostly parents in here? I mean, do you wish, oh my gosh, can I possibly teach my kids something so they don't have to learn it the way I learned it? Maybe. But sometimes they just got to fall flat on their face and learn it. It's the same in business. Is sometimes I've said yes to people because I needed the money or wanted the money. Both. I've had both, right? Where I actually just needed it and said yes, and then thought later it's like, that was the most expensive money I've ever taken. You know, I just don't want that anymore. And now I'm sure you too, now that you've done business for more than 15 minutes, you can now smell that coming. You can kind of feel it, you know, and maybe you can say out loud why, but sometimes it's just, you just feel it. You know, you just go, that's not my customer. And I'm finding now, I was going to say my age is not relevant. It's how long I've been doing business. It's not, the age doesn't matter. But now I can just say, you know what? I don't need that money. Don't forget your question. I want to say this one thing real quick. One of my friends, Josh, years ago, he's one of the best designers I've ever met in my life. He's just a great friend. And he and I did a lot of business together early on. We started a graphic design business together. And he taught me things. He's half my age. So, you know, he can't teach me anything, right? Yeah, right. He's wisdom way beyond his years. But he went through a long season where he didn't have a lot of money. And he would turn down jobs that he had no business turning down. Wink, wink. He was smarter than me, but he said something I thought was ridiculous. He said, "Those don't bring me joy. I don't want to do them." And I said, "You don't need joy. You need money." Well, he was smarter than me, just way before me. I didn't understand what he meant. I said, "Dude, you're broke. You need the money." He said, I don't. That cost me more in here than in my wallet. It doesn't matter. I thought it was ridiculous. Fast forward 10 years, like now I'm saying, yep, I don't want that job. Doesn't bring me joy. And now I understand it. So that was something I had to learn. And it's a version of that because his money takes anything but joy, you know, out of me. So that's really important. What was your question?
So that was my comment was, you give yourself the option to fire the customer.
Giving yourself the option to fire a customer.
You have to keep the customer. And the other thing is, we had a client that would come in and she would always decline nickel and dime us, nickel and dime, nickel and dime.
Yes.
She was one of them to barter. So anytime she walked in, we had a TIA charge. We would just add
Yeah.
whatever the sale was that we had going, the coupon out there, we would just add it in there. And she'd go, can't you do better? Oh, sure we can. And then we just take it off and give her the coupon. and she would never know. And she was happy. And she was a long-time customer.
Yeah.
And she would be, and all my crew knew.
Yep.
So they would all do it for her. And then we didn't lose anything. Everything would, she felt like she got a deal. We got a deal. It was good.
I'll say this one last thing for the live, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody live, and we'll keep talking here. Again, similar thing. I owned a Chick-fil-A for several years, and it was great. Loved it. But you know, I know it's hard to imagine, but even at Chick-fil-A, we had less than perfect customers. I'm sorry, we did less than perfect job. And so, you know, we talk about promoting people to a different customer level, basically and we had people who would come in and just be completely unreasonable. And, you know, you always ask yourself, because they'll come in and they'll say, every time I come here, you do this. And I'm thinking, why do you keep coming here? You know?
Keep an eye on the comments. Shut up.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just interesting why people will keep coming when they're not happy. So yeah, we've got some fun spam stuff here. I can't actually get rid of them all at the same time, but
thank you, YouTube.
yeah, thank you, YouTube. That is absolutely 100%. All right, so what we'll do here is we're going to wrap
They
this
love
up.
us.
Yeah, I know. We're going to wrap
Love
this up here live, and then we will keep this conversation going. If you guys have any questions in the live stream, let us know. We won't be able to catch up with you like we normally do, because normally we can just watch them right away. We're going to be here with everybody else in the room for another several hours, but we'll catch up with you guys at the end of the day. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We will catch you guys up, and you guys stay right here. Don't go anywhere, and we'll get back to you guys in just a minute. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we will see you soon.
Soon.
Bye.
Tomorrow.